Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. We certainly had a lot of interest in the webinar, as we have in the past couple that we've done. And it's the focus of the webinar certainly is it is fairly open, but the topics usually covered, from the questions that people have posed are about design and about the planning process and good construction management and that sort of thing. We also get questions on municipal issues and so on. But it's a fairly open discussion. But those are the main areas that we feature. My name is Patrick. I go by Pat, and this is my brother Bert. And so again, we'd like to welcome you. And we've received a number of questions over the last week or so, which we can tackle.
We've been in business just over 30 years. We've got two focuses to our company. One is design. We do tackle design from scratch, and we do manufacture. We do not build everything that we sell and that we design. And then the second is project management. And so that's a separate, fully insured side of the business that has its own project managers, salaried project managers. We like to take on projects that are progressive. So, for instance, energy efficiency, special home comfort, accessibility issues. We deal with more and more of that these days. Sustainability, or even suitability to the surroundings. So all of those things just make the project a little more fun for us. So we like focusing on things like that. But that being said, I think we'll just get right into some of the questions.
Sure. Yeah, our attempt is to answer everything in an unbiased manner and provide really good, usable information to everybody. So,
it is our opinion.
It is our opinion, sure. So Bert, why don't you start with the first question we've got?
Sure. Okay. So these are no order other than how they came in. So the first question was from the timing of the first conversation. How long is it until you're breaking ground? And an interesting question with a lot of variability in that. So we do have clients that have come to us in the past with very concrete ideas. They've got a site. The site doesn't have any complications. They tend to know exactly what they're after, perhaps because of previous research or because of having built before. And we start the design process, and it is completed very quickly in the sense of 2-3 months. So in that case, by the time you add time for engineering and permits and things, from first meeting until you could actually start, the minimum time would be about 6 months. That, of course, changes a little bit these days. We're not quite as successful in being quite that quick because there are just so many complications to the process in terms of township questions and just the time it takes to get everything back, even the quoting. We used to be able to rely on our quoting models internally. Now we are having to spend more time going out and actually getting things priced on individual projects. So that extends that design time because getting decent estimates is part of the design process so that you know that you can complete a project on budget before you begin the project. So that was question number one.
All right, second question. That second question says, thanks for reaching out. We currently have purchased a small home in Huntsville until we're able to find a suitable land for our needs. And can you provide a range, per square foot range for a completed home? Not just materials, but everything. Yes, certainly. Obviously, there are a lot of factors that affect price. It really is. Every part of any home can have variability, and the materials and specifications chosen and certainly site work costs, site infrastructure costs have a great deal of an effect on any project. So we usually break it down into a few components. First of all, the HST is a big one, so take that off the top. But site work, and some sites have some improvements already, like land cleared driveway in. Maybe there's an old cottage to take down, so hydro service may be right there. The driveway's in, but they probably still need a septic and a well, and maybe some retaining walls, landscaping, and so on. Then there's the cost of the cottage or house itself, and that's one we can define fairly well once we've spent a little bit of time with each of our customers. But there are several factors that can move that budget up or down. And what I think we do well is really get to know what's important to our customer and focus the budget on where it really means something to them. And everybody has different priorities. It may be a certain feature of a lot of stonework or a lot of timber work or more of a complex heating system, or maybe it's a backup solar system. And we like to work with each customer to find out what's important to them, and then work on the budget to match those specifications and choices up and help them make those choices.
So more directly, our bread and butter project. So if you look where you saw our last sessions, you saw videos of some projects that we've completed over the past 3-4 years. And in today's market, if you review those videos and those projects, not including the site servicing that Pat was mentioning, and not including HST, but the building itself from first shovel in the ground until move in, those would be in the $500 to $600 a square foot range, materials and labor, kitchens, flooring, heating system, all of that, but excluding HST and excluding site servicing. So go back if you want and look at those videos, and you'll get a feel, and you can see which ones would be higher. They're the ones with a lot of sexy timber work inside, or expensive cabinetry, stone fireplaces that go to the ceiling, butler's pantries in the basement, so many complex architecture. All of those things push things to the upper end of that scale. Certainly, we've got clients that spend some less, and we've got clients that spend more than that. So it is all about the choice on those finishings and the accessibility of the site, those kinds of things. Next question is, do you provide building services in Central Frontenac in Ontario? So Central Frontenac, as we know, north of Kingston, is a long way from where we're sitting tonight in Gravenhurst. We find it successful to manage a project in the $1 to $3 million range within sort of an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of our office. More than that, and the project manager's time goes up, the time on the road, and just the difficulty of managing things really effectively, being there every minute you need to be. So we really want to stay within that area from a project management point of view. The key then is, how do you find a project manager in your area that suits your project if you're looking? So you can start by referrals, neighbors, township office, or a local home building center or lumber store can give you some referrals. Then it's a matter of having some conversations. And there you're looking for somebody that returns emails and returns phone calls promptly. When you ask them what their quote is going to look like, they can share with you in detail. It's not just 2 or 3 pages of a general number. They're going to talk to you about the specificity of their quotation. Maybe they're able to give you a draft that they've taken some of the numbers out, but that they've completed for somebody else. And this is all homework that you can do before you go to see another project or a referral. So your great communication is can't stress it enough, the key, because you want to have so much decided before shoveling the grounds, but there are some things that need to be monitored. You're going to have questions about the process that you maybe are a bit nervous about. You'll want prompt answers to them. So look for somebody that's readily answering the phone and has systems in place. The other part of that is that we have software in place that gives our clients 24/7 access through their own user name and password into our system where their project, all the information sits. Every detailed sign off, exterior colors, window specifications, flooring, kitchen cabinetry, the general architectural plans, every detail. When we have a client sign it off, it sits in one portal. And it's also a portal where our project managers add photos every couple of days as the project is going on. The client can sign in at their leisure and look at photos and ask questions about photos and be in touch. So it promotes a proactive conversation. So that's one step beyond just the email and the phone call. Is some companies will have platforms like the one we happen to use is called Buildertrend. But there are others out there as well.
Right. Next question is, we have an old cottage on Battle Park Island which we are considering replacing. It is about 900 square feet. We would like a 3 to 4 bedroom cottage, but nothing too big or fancy, possibly 2 bedrooms on the main and 2 on the second floor. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Well, yes, this is what we would typically do, and any builder you work with or designer you work with would typically do, is first come to understand what that property's like, because so much of the property's features will speak to the design. And the first thing we do is look at a property and say, okay, what's unique about the property, what the features are, where's the light and sun, where's the sun rise and set, where's the natural light coming in, what about privacy to neighbors, topography, those sorts of things will start to, I don't want to say dictate to the design, but you start to use those features to, when we start to come up with a good design that suits that property. Now, of course, the second piece of that puzzle is, what are the needs and tastes of the customer who will be living there, and that we have to get to know our customers and to know that, to understand that. Because we can't just start recommending something, for this, without really understanding how the cottage is going to be used. Is it a couple on the weekends and maybe 1 or 2 kids coming up? Or is it a couple on the weekends and then the next weekend there's 16 of you because all the kids and grandkids are up? Or will that change over time? So the more we understand that, the better we can say, okay, how is this cottage, without building a 8-bedroom mansion, how can we have this cottage have the flexibility and space to accommodate that kind of a weekend? And so that's the kind of process, and that's really a short summary of the process we would go through to start to design a cottage like that. And sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to just speak the things you can do even before you talk to us. And by the way, we love the fact that you talk to us. But there's 3 pieces of information that any designer needs, and certainly that we need. We have found this kind of structure to be really helpful in clarifying what the important characteristics are going to be. Where should the money be spent? So the first thing is, we've got a document called Smart Plan on our website. Many of you have seen that and used it. And it's just a way of gathering information that's in your head. For instance, how large a dining room table is appropriate that you see it? How many cooks are in the kitchen? How many bedrooms and what is in those bedrooms? Is there a den? Where is the TV? How the stone fireplace or a wood stove? So it boils down to 5 questions per room. Who's going to use the room? What are you going to put in it furniture-wise? What do you need to store in it? What do you want the room to feel like? And what would you like to see out of the window? Now, the last one you might not be able to answer if you don't have a property yet, but certainly the first 4 you can answer. And you answer these and you don't care where the room is in the house. You just answer it just only thinking of the room. An entry porch is a room. A deck, it may be 2 rooms, because it's more than one conversation area. So number 1 is just start to record those characteristics that you already know in your head about your property. The second thing is start an electronic scrapbook. So many of the websites these days have a way that you can start a scrapbook. House is a great one. Pinterest is one people often use. Instagram is another one. There are others. And each one of these allows you to create an electronic scrapbook. And you and other members of the decision-making group on any property don't have to agree with one another at this stage. You can simply start putting your own photos and note what caught your eye about each photo. And their themes start to emerge within these scrapbooks, and you can share those with us or with whoever's designing your place. And we get an idea of what characteristics inside and out are really important to you. Because every cottage, you don't get everything you want, but if you have 2 or 3 things that really are just shine every time and tug at your heartstrings every time you walk in and say, wow, this is a fantastic place, it makes it a great place. Because you spent your money wisely, a little bit more on a couple of really important items, and then the rest may be a little less important. So that's the second thing, is a scrapbook, if you will, of illustrations. And the third thing is a budget. And the budget is yours, and you can change it anytime, but you've got to have a budget, because a designer can't design without that context. It's the third leg of the stool, and the stool's going to fall over without it. So when we're going through the design process, we keep estimating the budget so our clients know that we're working in the right direction. But those are the 3 pieces of information that you can gather with very little conversation with us. And when we then take that information and go to visit your property, all the characteristics that Pat talked about, we're seeing those through your eyes, instead of just looking at it as a nice walk in the woods and what would I build as a cottage there. We're now looking at your needs, requirements, and tastes as we're walking around and gathering information. So that's just what I wanted to add on that.
I'll just say that there are two things that we find some people do that are counterproductive. Now, one of them is they get looking at floor plans, and they get stuck into looking at floor plans, what floor plan might work and what won't. And well, if we just change this and we just change that. And we find that's a frustrating exercise, because there is no one floor plan out there that will be perfect for your property and perfect for you. It just doesn't exist. It will always be a compromise. And so as much as you can look at them for interest, don't try to say, okay, we're going to go with this floor plan and then modify it or whatever. We find it counterproductive. We find it much more productive to start with a blank piece of paper and listening to you and doing the things Bert sorted out or explained. The second one is arguing over, maybe I shouldn't use the word arguing, having a discussion over what the difference is in how the people involved want to see the place. And it could be husband and wife, it could be family members, kids. Sometimes it's shared more broadly than that. What we simply do is say, stop doing that. Just think about what you want and then come to us. And more often than not, Bert and I will look at it and go, well, yeah, they're not agreeing on this and this, but really there's a really easy way to make it all happen. Or they're arguing, but they kind of want the same things, and they're arguing for no reason. So, and I use the term arguing, but it's usually a discussion or that they don't quite agree on. So we can normally take people's ideas and come to understand the common ground there and present something that's going to work. And it really, we find that people just kind of have this sigh of relief that, oh, okay, we don't have to have this argument over this. This can be easily hammered out in a good design process. So I just wanted to add those 2 points that are important. Yeah.
All right. So the next question we have is, how far in advance should you secure a design team and builder? And this questionnaire said we've got plans to build in late 23 or 24, but aren't sure when the right time is to start the process. This is really easy. Now, start the process today. In terms of how I describe things, of finding a structured format, whether you use our document or not, find a structured format. It might be as simple as listing each room that you see in the new place on a separate piece of paper. Keep those pieces of paper on your dining room table, and as you picture yourself using the new place, add notes or questions to the room where they would be most relevant. It could be as simple as a structure as that, but start that process today. You can always stop the design process at any point. It's not wasted. Or you can complete it and then not start construction for a year. There are just huge benefits. the main thing is you've got a lot more time to do research. When you come to us, we've got more time to price options or to be creative about the architecture and come up with interesting ways, maybe less costly, to reflect something we've seen in photos that you brought forward. So you just, the confidence that you get because you've gathered more information and your plan is more thought through and your budget is more set, you just have a smile on your face at that point. You start having fun with the project. And most of our projects are second homes at this stage. So you shouldn't be worrying about it too much to start with. You should be having fun with it from the beginning. So, in a sense, sign on, buy into a process that has you have fun with it, that has you be able to engage all the members. We have children as young as 6 and 7 giving us notes about what they'd like to see, what's important, what they want to store. We've got 3 generations. One family not that long ago, 25 typewritten pages by the time we looked at the notes from 3 generations of the family.
Don't feel obligated.
No. But the thing was, there was no censoring that went on. Each individual got to write their own things. Most of it was characteristically the same in terms of theme. But there were some really interesting differences, and it's some real gems that have made places just beautifully personal to a family. Just have come out of some of this non-censored brainstorming that goes on up front. So just start as soon as you can. It's also helpful you go through more than one season if you've got the time, and you can see how light and how family usage and other things just changes from season to season on a particular piece of property. Some properties have been in the family for, just generations. There wasn't long ago, a couple of weeks ago, 5th generation, from the late 1800s to today on a Georgian Bay Island. So a lot of history there. But that's the idea: is start the process as soon as you can. Engage a designer, early on. A couple of years ahead is not out of the question. They can guide you through the process in there. And then the follow up to this question is: would there be deposits? Would deposits be expected? Or would that come once the contracts and plans are signed? So everybody's a little bit different here, but we have a small 3-page design contract that we have clients sign. And the payment there is made in 3 stages as we progress through the design. It varies a little bit depending on the complexity of the plan and how much work we're going to have to do, how much 3D work we're going to have to do in order to, some clients just have difficulty picturing a 2-dimensional drawing in 3 dimensions. So we're often doing 3-dimensional work, maybe not of an entire place, but of particular rooms that are important or exteriors to trade off different exteriors. So we look at that and we agree on a flat fee for design most of the time. And that's paid in 3 stages. And then when it comes to the construction, well, that's a construction contract, and it can vary quite a bit, but I'd say there are 2 basic scenarios for payment of construction contracts. One is if there's a financial institution involved, then there's probably going to be set payments as defined by the financial institution. Or it could be that each payment comes with quite a service fee because there has to be an audit of how much work's been completed by a third party, usually a surveyor, or a representative from the company, from the financial institution. But that's often the case, is you want to really minimize the amount of payment, and it's usually third-party verified before the payment is made, and often lawyers are involved, so there are fees related to that. Most of our contracts, we set a visual stage. So we say, listen, this amount is due when the subfloor is on or when the roof has been insulated or shingled. And we set probably about 10 stages of payment for a project that would, be $2 to $3 million. And there might be a few extra that are variable amounts related to, say, the foundation or other things that haven't been decided up front. But, expect somewhere in the 8 to 12 payments. When you reach a visual stage of completion or substantial completion, then that payment becomes due. So it's not somebody that you have to hire an outside person to verify. It can be verified through photos or by a client visiting the site. So two basic scenarios, one with lawyers and other fee personnel involved for good reason because you're protecting the finance. And the other is more a straightforward contract where the financing is not predicated on those determinants.
Yeah, and we don't ask for a huge deposit up front.
Oh God, no.
The first payment, and by the time we get to the stage of a contract signing, because we've gone through the design process, we've also gone through the whole budgeting process. We've helped you make decisions. We've helped you make all the most of the choices. Yeah. We're quite certain about the budget, and so at that point you should be very certain about the budget before you sign a contract with anybody, and you shouldn't be paying a huge deposit. That's just not something you need to do, and I don't know if just any reputable company would not ask for a large deposit.
For example, with us, larger deposits might be required if at the beginning of construction we have to start work on a huge timber frame.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or it's a log construction, so we're going to begin log work on something that's only suitable for that particular house or cottage. And in that case, we will ask for a deposit because we may be laying out $200,000-300,000 ourselves to begin work that it can't be converted into a different place. So there are scenarios where we will ask for a deposit, but there'll be a really good reason, and it has us laying out a lot of money ahead of time because things take so long in production before they can be installed.
Yeah. The next question: can you build on an insulated slab foundation? Yes, absolutely. We can do what we call slab on grade foundations. We're actually doing coincidentally two right now, and they're both due to high water tables or potential flooding zones. So a basement in that case, and this is part of our property evaluation, looking and really understanding your property. And certainly a basement's great, but a flooded basement is not. So we might say we'll make recommendations or actually perhaps insist on certain foundation types. And yes, if we're doing what's called a slab on grade foundation, we will definitely want to insulate that underneath that foundation very, very well. And we'd love to do in-floor radiant heat in those because then you have a nice, if you're walking on a concrete slab, most of the time covered with flooring, but still you want it to be nice and warm and toasty. So but yeah, those are all, there are about 3 or 4 good foundation types, and that's one of them, and that's suitable for certain properties.
And then another question: can you put in an elevator? Absolutely, and we have. We've years and years ago we built in an elevator. Our client happened to be dealing with cerebral palsy, and he had from a young age. But as he progressed, that was becoming more difficult. And so we were designing a new home, and an elevator got installed right from day one. He didn't use it right away; he didn't need to, but eventually he did, and it's there. We have done projects. We've had a client who's blind. We've done many projects where there's not our immediate clients, but there's other members of the family. They may be an older generation, or they may be a friend who has mobility issues, and they just want to make the place welcoming for those extra family members or friends. So we actually work hard to make places accessible as much as we can, even if it's not an immediate requirement. Those would be wider interior doors, 0 to few steps to the entry. We did a place that had not a single step from the roadway through the house and into the backyard patio. Roll-in showers, so we've handled all of these because we're part of an aging population, ourselves included, or at least me.
Just him.
And so elevator, no problem. They've been done a long time, and there's no secret to them.
Can you read that?
Yeah, I can. My handwriting. So construction billing, I think we've dealt with this already in the previous one. We had a later question related to how are the payment stages set, and contractors will vary a little bit on this. In our case, we set those visual stages.
It's a progress draw. So when we reach a specific progress on your building, there's a draw on the contract.
Yeah.
And that's most of our builds are like that. There's very few that we do what Bert described as where you're getting progress financing from a bank. Most of our clients would use a line of credit or something from their home or some other to build.
So those were the basic questions that were sent in. Does anyone that's listening right now have a question that they'd like to put forward at this time?
Oh, come on. There's got to be some burning questions out there. You can ask us anything. Maybe we answered them all so well that no one has any more questions.
Well, we did say a half an hour. We are at a half an hour.
Excuse me, guys, I threw a question into the chat. I thought you'd see it.
Oh, we didn't see the chat. Oh, there's the chat. There it is.
Look at that. Pay attention. Look at that. Okay.
Are there insurance?
Oh, this is a lovely question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question for everybody listening is, during the build, are there any insurance considerations that we need to consider, or is that all covered by you, the builder? Yes. Whoever you get to build, insurance is a topic you do want to cover, because there are a lot of different kinds of liability during the construction process. And so most builders kind of leave it up to the homeowner to put a rider on their existing insurance or their current insurance. We don't find that's there are a few reasons why I don't think that's the ideal way to insure. We have an insurance policy on each project. So the policy is put on your project. Your project is covered from start to finish, and it's an all-risk policy. So it covers all perils, so that it's not incumbent on you to take care or worry about insurance, because it's all covered with our insurance and it's included in our contracts. And the only thing we say to our customers is maybe but you should keep the liability portion of the insurance on your property, because there might be something down at the waterfront that happens, or that might fall under your insurance because it has nothing to do with the construction. But other than that, we cover all perils. And items like insurance that we include, there are a lot of things in construction that could be extras and extras and extras. We try to discuss all costs with our customers. Things like insurance that we include in the contracts, you really want to be thorough with whoever you're dealing with. You don't want to sign a contract and then realize there are a whole list of things not included, and then because that's upsetting, because it's a surprise. So insurance is one of those things that
It's a biggie.
it's a big one. It's more than it goes up every year. So
yeah. But liability is a key. Keep liability, because there are portions of the property that may not be covered by us. And talk to your insurance company ahead of time. There are some insurance companies, if they know there's construction going on, they will drop you. They will have nothing to do with construction. So make sure yours is not one of those, because it may affect, if it's a second place and you've got this covered under your homeowner's insurance, it may affect your homeowner's insurance. So it's something that you want to ask early on. And one way that contractors do try to get around this is by having you pull your own permit. There's two things that you're left at. Number one, you're not eligible for a new home warranty. That is arguably either in your favor or not, depending on who you talk to. But the other part is that you're at risk insurance-wise. So now all of the insurance is up to you. And in fact, you are deemed as the project manager, which means you're also the health and well-being of everybody working on your site is your responsibility. So you can push that down to the trades as much as you can, but it's never a 100% scenario. So that's one of the major risk areas that you're accepting if you take out the permit in your own name, is the fact that you're responsible for site safety.
And that's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And can be a huge liability. So great question, Jim. Thanks for that.
Yeah, we'll call this a done deal for today.
And certainly, any questions going forward, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.
Very much welcome, and thanks again for attending.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Good night.
Good night.